Okay, so assalamu alaikum everyone. Good evening. My name is Sakina Dada. I'm an occupational therapist and the executive director of SMILE Canada Support Services. We are an organization that supports children and youth with disabilities, particularly from racialized communities, refugee and new immigrant communities here in Canada. And joining me is Adam. Adam, please introduce yourself.
Sounds good. Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Adam Ghamrawi. I'm a psychologist. I practice in school and clinical psychology. I'm based out of Oakville, Ontario. I'm also a volunteer with Naseeha. Naseeha is an organization that's been around for quite some time, and I volunteer with the education outreach team. So for those of you that don't know about Naseeha, Naseeha is an organization that's trying to address the issue of mental health within the Muslim community. They have a helpline that operates 7 days a week where people can call to get confidential, non-judgmental, peer-to-peer counseling. And they recently also launched a text line. And so it's interesting because since we're at home these days, people don't necessarily have the privacy to be able to get on the phone and talk to someone. So it's great that there is a text line. And I encourage you guys to check out the website. If you or you know anyone else that is looking for help, then please do reach out because we are here for you.
Yeah, and it's so Adam to be doing this with you. Smile and Naseeha sort of work together over the years, like just having events where we come together, but really nice to be able to actually on this live platform share ideas together. So inshallah, this is the first of many, if I dare say. If you can put up with my Instagram humor, which only I find funny, then inshallah we will do another one of these.
Inshallah, I look forward to it.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. I see there's some people joining. First of all, we hope that you are all well and safe and healthy, inshallah. And we appreciate you joining us today. And we hope that, these points and strategies that we share benefit you. We're going to do our best if we mention any resources to share them, maybe in the comment section or maybe in a post. That might be a little bit easier. We'll figure out with the teams who know how to do that stuff, how to go about doing that. But I'm gonna, Adam, I'm gonna give it away to you.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So just to give some background about what we want to talk about today. So there's been some resources that have been put out for families, specifically for parents, and how they can help their children. So my intention today is just to give you guys really practical tips that you can apply right away. But the important thing is not to get overwhelmed. And if after hearing about, there's a sense of can't keep up, that's okay, right? No one's expecting perfection, and we're here to help you guys out. If there's any questions or if you are wanting some clarifications, please feel free to ask us. I'll leave it up to Sakina's good hands to figure out how this question or the chat box, and we'll take it from there. So maybe I'll start off with the first tip, Sakina, if you're okay with that.
Of course.
Okay. So the number one tip that I have is to let your kids feel what they need to feel. And what I mean by that is, are we creating an environment where our kids can be scared or sad or angry or disgusted or happy? Or are we having to jump in and sort of, do we need to fix things for them? Okay. And this becomes an issue because if kids don't feel the sadness or the anger or the fear, then we're not allowing them to vent these emotions. And so you can imagine if kids are holding on to these emotions, it's not going to help them stay regulated. And so the first tip I have is, finding a way to validate your child's emotion. And that could be as simple as saying a statement like, Ahmed, it looks like you are scared. Just labeling your child's emotion for him or her. Sakina, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's extremely important, especially because this is a really scary situation. Like this is not a situation that we've experienced before. Not being able to go outside, not being able to see your relatives. So I think, as scary as it is, or as overwhelming as it is for adults, it is just as overwhelming or scary for children, if not more, right? And I this point of letting children feel is so important. Um, for many kids who have communication issues or communication difficulties, I want to encourage all of us to have a way to express those feelings other than through words. So, for example, if we have emotions chart at where a child can go to it, can touch it, can point to it. I'm feeling sad now. Some of us don't have pictures at home. That's okay. Uh, you know, you could make your own emotions chart. Like just take out a Sharpie or pen and draw some pictures, some faces. One that looks sad, one that looks happy, one confused, one, of course, that looks angry. We might all be seeing a lot of breakdowns right now, and honestly, it's okay. Adam, I don't know about you, but I've had my share of big breakdowns over the last, 2 weeks. Just, just those feelings of, what's going on. So, I really appreciate this first point, and I think that, especially for children, just giving them different ways to express those feelings. Um, I also wanted to make one more point about that if your child is using a communication device, as best as you can, try and keep the device available, charged. If it's an iPad, for example, try to make sure it's charged. So that when a child is feeling like they want to tell you something, they can do so. Um, so so I hope this first tip helps. Um, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I want to add on to that. It's a struggle for people who are really good with their verbal skills to communicate how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Just like the average person off the street is going to struggle to talk about their emotions. And so I love the idea of having visuals for different emotions. I would even suggest having a question mark. If the child is, unsure what they're feeling, they can just point to that, and
Yeah.
that can be sort of a way you validate that they're not sure how to feel or how they're feeling.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of having visuals that a child can point to be able to express their emotions.
Yeah, and just, putting them in places around the house where children will see them. So for example, up high on the fridge might not be a place where a child can reach. So just putting it lower, putting it within a child's reach. So even if a child is verbal but doesn't feel like saying it, they could just go and touch it. And we can constantly reassure our children that if you're feeling confused or sad, if you're feeling angry, tell us. Tell us how you're feeling.
Yeah, yeah. And I love the word upset because it's a catch-all word that can encapsulate anger, sadness, any sort of emotion that a person's not able to express. They'll resort to the word upset. So you can say, Sarah, it looks like you're upset, and it's okay to be upset.
Yeah.
If the parent's unsure what the emotion is, so that
Yeah.
can be sort of a trick.
And I really loved what you said at the end there. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing, right? Like it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be scared.
Yeah, yeah. Skinner, you mentioned that we as adults are struggling. Imagine how difficult it is for our kids,
Yeah.
whose entire sort of routine expectations are completely upside down.
Yeah.
And so definitely, I think providing that, we need to recognize that it's tough on them as it is tough on us. So the next tip I have is, um, for some families, it's difficult for some parents to contain their own emotions, and I want to say what I mean by that. So let's say that there is a parent who is really scared about what's happening.
Yeah.
Let's say we all know there's a lot of financial uncertainty. And let's say that's causing a lot of fear in a parent. It becomes an issue if the parent's not able to contain their own fear and they pass their fear to their child. So, for example, if you are worried about paying your bills, and we all are, myself included,
Yeah.
And it's okay to have that worry because millions of other Canadians have that worry.
Yeah.
But if that's a worry that you have, as an example, it would not be appropriate for you to, for example, talk to your partner, your spouse, about the difficulty that you have about paying your bills given the uncertainty, because
Yeah.
that's only going to increase the fear that your child has. And so it's really important to find ways for parents to cope. If that means, calling a friend, calling a family member, seeking professional help if they feel like their level of dysregulation is having a functional impact, then please do that. I tell families all the time, if you are up here emotionally, your child will meet you exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And so you need to find a way to bring yourself to a more manageable level, and your child will meet you where you are.
Yeah.
And so that's the second tip, just ensuring that there are good boundaries between your own emotions and the emotions of your children.
Yeah. I mean that it's an excellent tip because I think sometimes we don't realize that we're feeding those emotions off, even though we might be trying to contain them. Uh,
Mhm.
if we are really 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 upset, kids can tell. Kids can tell when we're confused. Kids can tell when we're angry. Kids can tell when we're sad. And I really like this one because especially when there's so much uncertainty for them, um, keeping as best as we can. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but just as much as we can, trying to when we're around them to just keep reassuring them that it's going to be okay. I think this one, a lot of the families that I talk to, a lot of SMILE families, a lot of families with children with disabilities, I often like to remind people, and myself included, that even if we think our children don't understand, the chances are they do understand. And that's because even if a child is nonverbal or has hearing loss or hearing impairment, they will feed off of other ways that we are communicating.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I were to sigh, you can hear my frustration. You can see my frustration. You can see when people's shoulders tense up, and it again. It's not going to be perfect. We are in a home together 24 hours a day. Many of us have so many family members in the home. There's really no place it seems to hide. But I think as much as we can, I loved your example, like call up a friend, do some deep breathing, take a walk by yourself, even if it's just from like a room to another room to another room. But just do what you can to kind of ease those emotions
Mhm.
and then try and approach your children.
Yeah.
And if your child does catch you in a moment where they've sort of caught some tears or they've caught you, having a little bit of meltdown, I would just say, reassure them that actually you are okay. Show them by maybe, wiping tears,
Yeah.
both smiling together, going to that emotions sheet that we talked about, touching together, and just getting through it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely modeling, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Mama's upset and I'll be okay. And
yeah,
this is my sadness. You don't need to worry about my sadness.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Because Mama Bear is Mama Bear.
sorry.
I said because Mama Bear is Mama Bear.
Yeah, exactly. So the third tip I have, actually, I want to. Someone made a comment that I caught earlier. They said, "You are not your child's friend," and I love that. And I think parents, because we are so nurturing, we lose sight of the fact that we still have to maintain a power difference where parents are up here and the child is up here. And that's also emotional. There also has to be an emotional power difference too. And it doesn't mean, oh, little Ahmed, let me come to you and I'm going to vent to you about my emotional distress, right? There has to be really clear boundaries around that. So the third tip that I have is really trying to establish a routine. So
Yeah.
I work for school boards, and I work with kids with disabilities, and I tell families this all the time. Kids that don't struggle need a routine.
Yeah.
Kids that struggle, let's say either behaviorally, cognitively, with their communication, whatever it is, need even more routine.
Yeah.
Like when in doubt, put a routine in place. And routine is not being rigid, right? It's not, it's 8:01, you better be in bed, right? That's
Yeah.
not what I mean by routine. I just mean, having some sort of predictability around what to expect.
Yeah.
That, there still is going to be, if your child is in school, there's still going to be an aspect of learning. If your child, or if you are part of a larger family, there's still time to interact with your family, and all these things are predictable.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like, we're not militant about it, but it's Ahmed, today we're gonna do some homework or whatever they're calling it, some Zoom. I can't believe kids are on Zoom, but that's a whole other issue. We're gonna go on Zoom for half an hour, and
Yeah.
then after that you can go and you can watch a little bit of TV, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna do 10 more minutes of reading. That gives them something to look forward to, and that will ease their anxiety around what's happening, inshallah.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the nail. Like we really, really need to have routines. I would say, for children, try and make the routine, like try and make the schedule a visual schedule, and also try and put it in a location where children can see it without asking or without you nagging them and saying, oh, do you know what time it is? Like have it in a place that they can go to. Again, if your child is a communication device or communication system, have that, whether it's auditory or visual or a mixture of both, have it in a place that is accessible to them as best as you can. The other thing as part of this routine, put in things that are also calming, put in things that are fun. Like, the one thing about being at home is the home environment was not, unless you are homeschooling. And by the way, kudos to all of you who were homeschooling. This is my first week doing it. It is not easy, but for those of you who, for those of your children who are at school, home was never school. And so all of a sudden having to do math at a certain hour, doing the Zoom or FaceTime with your teacher, it's very weird. And you're doing it in a space that was designed to be your dinner table or
Exactly.
your bedroom. And so for children, even having these spaces now all of a sudden combined to be one space is not easy. And so I would say, no matter where you live and what your home looks like, try and have a designated space, like the TV space, as best as you can. Try not to make that the homework space or the dinner space. Having even if they're right beside each other, but having a chair and a table specifically for homework, so that kids can associate that, okay, this chair I'm going to sit on when I do my homework. I'm not going to do my homework on my bed.
Yeah.
And these things, again, it's not going to be perfect. This is a very new situation, a very different situation. But schedules definitely help. And that's something that's been proven that it helps give structure, familiarity. It helps children, stick to that routine, helps actually, they say it helps with that, just feeling secure, that like you said, Adam, like I can predict what is coming next. It's not scary to not know. Somebody mentioned in one of the comments, a visual schedule and a visual timer. Yes, a visual timer is brilliant to say, okay, we have an hour left, we have 15 minutes left, and now we only have a few minutes, and then you'll be done and you can move on to the next.
Yeah, for sure. There was a comment also about what do you do if both parents are working?
Yeah.
Let me tell
Great
you.
question.
Sorry?
It's a great question.
It is. And Sakina and I were talking before we started about, how is it working from home? and you said, let me close the door because you want to hear your kids' bedtime routine.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about me. Sometimes my son will interrupt my therapy session with clients,
Yeah.
and that's a disaster. And it's okay because,
Yeah.
like 30 other millions of Canadians, I
Yeah.
too am working from home, and I'm working from a place that's not designed to be my workspace, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea that both parents are working, I would probably assume that maybe the majority of families, and I would approach this from a very compassionate perspective. Are we holding ourselves to this unrealistic expectation of what this crisis, or how we're supposed to be as parents during this crisis?
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, your screen time is going to go up, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
That's okay.
We're in survival mode, right? We're not on
Yeah.
vacation. This is not like, we're not at school, and it's okay to relax our expectations given the circumstances that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Like, just having children be part of, like your workspace, and having children all of a sudden be part of it is, for me, it's very overwhelming. I've been on a few calls where all of a sudden my children can't whisper, like for the life in them, like mama, and they're like screaming, right? But people do understand. People understand, and honestly, we are in a very different situation, and we're gonna look back on this and laugh about it, hopefully. And our kids, they also are learning about what we do. My children have absolutely no idea what I do, and that's okay. They're learning slowly. And my son told me the other day, so I know your job now. I said, oh, okay, what is it? He goes, you talk a lot on the phone. I was like, that's exactly what I do. So yeah, so I mean, we got to just do the best that we can.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my last tip is social distancing is so yesterday. It's all about physical distancing.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is, as much as possible, please try to continue any sort of social interaction that you can with your kids. So if it's getting your kids on FaceTime with relatives, friends, neighbors, if it's phone calls, whatever it is, try to maintain some sort of level of social interaction,
Yeah.
because we're not asked to be so. I mean, it's I don't like the language around it. It's
Yeah.
really just being physically distant, not socially distant. And especially if your child tends to be evasive and withdrawn, then this might be for them an opportune time to continue being withdrawn and being evasive. And so we want to help those kids, right? A lot of times it's the kids that are externalizing, which means kids who are acting out that get a lot of the attention. But we also got to be careful with the kids that are not acting out externally, but they're acting out internally, right? There's a lot of sadness, a lot of fear, and they're not showing that. And so, one way to mitigate this is by ensuring that there's, sorry, my phone is falling. One way to mitigate this is by ensuring that to the best of your ability, that there still is some sort of social network. Because what we know from research is that your level of connectedness, or your social network, and I don't mean social media, I just mean in real life, is a resiliency factor, and that means that it's going to protect you from mental health issues, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to hear how we can sort of make that or adapt that with kids with different abilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thing, right? We want to make sure that whoever was in our child's life continues as best as we can to be in their life. So I've been telling families that I work with, reach out to your EAs, reach out to your teachers, but also your therapists, also like the assistants, like the support workers, the respite workers, as best as you can. For some of the children that we support, nurses, have been such a huge part of their life, of their daily life. And all of a sudden, those respite workers, those nursing services are no longer. And people develop relationships with with people, with others in their life, no matter who they are. So even if you were routinely seeing an individual, it would be nice to have your child see that individual. Let's say that's not possible. What could you do? You could maybe, if you have a picture, print that picture on your home printer. If you don't have a printer, maybe you could even write their name and attempt to draw a little picture. It's important for us to just make sure that our children know that the people who are in their will continue to be in their lives. The people who are helping them with math or toileting or whatever it is, will continue to be there as a support. Right now, we might not see these people as we used to, but they will continue to be there. And one of the suggestions I have, in addition to FaceTiming and calling, is to put up pictures around your house. Put up pictures of grandma and grandpa. If your children would see them on the weekends. My son had such a meltdown the other day because he couldn't go and pet the dog next door. And he hasn't had a meltdown about a human being, but he had a meltdown about Skittles. Skittles is the little dog. And the first thing we talked about is, why can't I touch Skittles? And so we talked about, well, we can't go and touch Skittles, but we can wave, we can write a story about Skittles, we can do so many things. And what I would encourage, if you're struggling with having those conversations, to look up social stories or conversation boards that talk about the situation, but particularly talk about that physical distance. And Adam, I completely agree. We are social beings. We do not need to stop socializing. We just cannot touch one another, and we cannot stand close to one another. But like I'm interacting with you right now, and a bunch of other people who I don't see.
We're getting lots of hearts.
So.
Oh,
but this is as though we were in the same room. I would like to share a resource. I'll put it in the comment section once we're done. It's a video called Time to Come in Bear. And it's a little short story. It's about how we have to stay in the house, but we are together with our parents, maybe our siblings. And although we want to see people outside, we cannot do it now, but we will. I think it's very important to tell your children, reassure them that while we cannot go and pet the dog today, we will. And, maybe you could give them, kids will ask when.
Yeah.
Well, I've chosen to say 2 months, and if that changes, it changes. But right now, like, that's what I'm comfortable with, and you might be comfortable with something else.
Yeah. So I love that there's the story that you talked about. Is that specific to COVID-19?
It is, but it doesn't use the terminology. So
yeah.
It doesn't actually say coronavirus or COVID, but it does talk about at this time we can go play with our friends outside.
Yeah. I love that. The reason why I love it is because so kids who are going to be who have cognitive challenges, we like, this is so abstract. Okay, this is abstract for both of us. For many people, like no one has any idea what's going on. Is this an airborne virus? What do we do? Like, it's just so complicated. And so for children, and then for children who may have cognitive challenges, this becomes so overwhelming. Not on the emotional aspect, just trying to understand or make sense of what's going on. And so really try to find a very concrete way of talking about things. And so I love that you talked about this short story, and I'd love to use it myself as a resource for the families I work with. So that sounds to me like an example of a way to make this very concrete for children. And another thing that you mentioned is the idea that yes, right now we can't touch Skittles, but we can sometime in the future. We never lose hope, and
Yeah.
whether it's a child or an adult, we always have to instill hope in the people around us.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe 2 months, maybe a year, Allahu alam, no one knows. But
Yeah.
we have hope that it's going to get better.
Yeah, and while we're at home, there are the one thing I really love about that story that I'll share. There are things we can do when we're at home. So while we cannot go outside and touch the dog, we can look up a video. We can draw a picture. We can act something out. Like there's so many things we can do, and same thing with regards to relatives or grandparents or friends, neighbors. While we cannot go outside, we could do things that show that we care about people. And as much as we can, in whatever mode of communication your child uses, there is always a way to socialize. Always. And that's something that I really want to share today, that even if your child is nonverbal, or if your child might not sort of understand what's going on, or what even physical distancing means, your child knows that they're not going outside. And so just having people who were in their lives, like, give them a call. And you'd be surprised, you'd be surprised if you try and track somebody down. They might be just as exciting and comforted to talk to you and your child you are to them.
Exactly. Yeah, very good points.
So yeah, this has been fun. So I just wanted to go over some comments that people wrote.
Sure.
Somebody said, my son's birthday is coming up soon. We're gonna celebrate it with friends and family members through Zoom. I think that's awesome. I wish your son a happy birthday, and hope that it is gonna be a great party. And maybe you can tell your son that when this is all over, you can have like a birthday party part 2. All right. Adam, did you have any final comments for anyone?
So say that again. Do I have any?
Did you have any final comments for anyone?
No. That's it. I think we talked about putting out a sort of a one pager that summarizes these tips and how they can be adapted. I just want to remind everyone that it's okay if you are stressed out or you're anxious or you're afraid. It's this again. We're in survival mode, right?
Yeah.
And so please, try to find some compassion to allow yourself to feel these things.
Yeah.
And inshallah, by doing that, by taking care of yourselves, you'll be able to take care of your children.
Yeah, definitely. So I think what we'll do is we'll put any of these resources we talked about onto that one page. And I think it's safe to say we can share that on both the SMILE Canada and Naseeha platform. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to contact Adam or myself. You can contact me at info@smilecan.org, and Adam can contact you
at. So you can contact us at the Naseeha Instagram page.
Okay.
Or if you want to reach me directly, I'm at GPS_psych. I'll put that in the comments.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and please don't hesitate to reach out, and we wish you all the best. Stay home, please. Stay healthy,
Yes.
Stay safe, and inshallah, we will get through this together.
Thank you. And Sakina, on behalf of Naseeha, I'm so thankful for what you and your organization do for our families that have children with different abilities. May Allah reward you. And this has been a great Instagram live chat. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, and same to you. This is we need to. You guys have a saying here for you. I absolutely love that, because we are here for each other. We're gonna inshallah get through this together.
Inshallah. Sounds good.
Take care. Good night, everybody.
All
Thanks
right.
for joining us.
Take care. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamualaikum, everyone.